Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Jack Miller. I'm the president of T360, and welcome to our Friday Fireside Chat. We're really excited this month to kick off a series that's focused on women brokerage leaders in our industry, and to have just a series of conversations with them about the industry, their leadership experience, things that they've observed, and how we can do better with women in leadership in real estate. So I'm delighted to have today Brenda Tushaus from RE/MAX Results in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And for those of you that don't know Brenda, she runs the largest RE/MAX franchisee in the country and has been with RE/MAX Results for how long, Brenda? You've been there quite a while. This is your career has been there.
19 years.
Yeah, wow. So we're delighted to have you. I have here also Kelly White, who is our SVP over talent and hiring at T360. And Kelly she and I have done a lot of work together over the years. We've worked together in multiple capacities at multiple different companies. So I'm really glad to have her join the conversation and participate and be part of this. And Kelly will be with us all month. So welcome, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. So Brenda, where I thought we'd start is we'd like to get to know you a little bit better and hear about kind of your leadership journey in real estate. And I did a little bit of research. You're a lifer. I mean, you started in real estate and you've been in it the whole time, and that's a special thing. I mean, most of us I came from outside of real estate. I came from technology industry. Kelly came from a different background. So, we're super interested to hear kind of your perspective, having been in it for what appears to be the majority of your career. And so tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get in? What do you let's go through it. Let's talk about it.
I didn't have any family members in real estate, where sometimes when you think of that, you think, what one of your parents.
Yeah.
I grew up in a blue collar. My mom was a hairdresser and my dad ran an auto repair place. He was a mechanic, former race car driver. But I did start out with a little bit of marketing. I worked at Best Buy headquarters outside of college for a couple of years. And then from there, I went to a luxury home builder. Luxury home builder known as Charles Cudd Company. And at Charles Cudd, I was there for about 5 years. I started out there as an executive assistant. And as an executive assistant, you kind of have your hands in everything. And I grew to running their warranty department, to overseeing their technology. And I was there for about 5 or 6 years before I decided to apply for an open position that I saw at RE/MAX Results. And it was about a 6-month interview process. And then John Colopy and Bill Saunders, who were the broker owners at the time, finally offered me a position. And I started out as the technology manager at RE/MAX Results. Even though I had applied for a different position, our 6-month interview process led to, we need you in a different area, let's do this instead. And so when I started out as the technology manager, the first thing I had to kind of overcome was when I was meeting with new sales executives, our customers, I would often get, oh, so you're the new IT guy. Because, this was 20 years ago, and it's still that way now. Traditionally there's a lot more guys in, tech support or IT. And so I would be like, yep, that's me. I'm the new IT guy. And I did that role for a number of years. My first day on the job at RE/MAX Results was September 10th, 2001. So it was the day before 9/11. So wow. I started amidst just craziness and uncertainty. And I feel like we've come full circle now in 19 years with 2020. But through the years, I grew with the brokerage, and I held a variety of roles as the brokerage grew from 3 offices and 150 agents at the time to now over 40 offices and just shy of 1,200 agents. Probably one of the most important roles that I held in my path to leadership was director of training, or director of recruiting. It believe it or not, that was probably my most important role. My mentors, which were John Colopy and Bill Saunders, they said, you know, if you're going to make it in this world of running a real estate brokerage, you have to know how to recruit. That's the number one skill set. It's the most important thing in succeeding. And so I jumped into a recruiting role, not really knowing what I was doing, and I actually did very well. I enjoyed it. And that was what I was told by not only them, but others in the industry, that if you're good at recruiting, if you're good at just people, relationships in general, you know, you'll succeed. And so that always stuck with me. From director of recruiting, I moved into, I probably got the order mixed up, but I was in more of a general business development operations role. Eventually I moved into COO, Chief Operating Officer, and then became CEO in 2018. So.
Well, we have something in common, you and I, because
Yeah.
I started in real estate industry with Keller Williams Realty franchise.
Yep.
The week after 9/11.
Ah.
So started within you know, kind of into the brokerage industry in one form or another,
Yeah.
within days of each other. So that's really, and I also started in the technology side of it as well, and did some other things. So, but that's really fascinating. One of the questions that I know that Kelly and I both had for you was, you know, you have a technology in your background, and I could tell that. I didn't know that was your start of it. So that's a really interesting place to start, because as you said, that's kind of a lot of men are in technology. And so it's unusual.
Yeah, I love technology. I have a knack for it. I like looking at new things. I do work with a lot of startup vendors. I've been called the angel customer more than once. It's just something that I like to do. I also knew when there came a time in my role as IT manager early on that I needed someone else to do the role. I was better suited in other areas. So the gentleman that's running our IT department, I had hired 16 years ago. So he's still with us to this day. And it was just me at the time, and then it was just him, but now we have a whole team in IT. So I work with them. They still report to me, but now they know a little bit more.
Yeah,
I couldn't set up a firewall, you know.
Yeah, it's constantly changing. It changes so fast, and there's a lot that you have to keep track of to stay current with it. So, but that's a really interesting start. One of the things I think you have in common with Kelly's done a lot of recruitment and is like drives.
I know, I was thinking that.
Back. So I was gonna say, Kelly, if you had any conversation about recruiting, because that's it sounds like, Brenda, you took to it very naturally, which not everybody does. I mean, that's uncommon.
Kelly, you must love it.
I love it.
Yeah, if you like working with people, when I was recruiting, I mean, let's be real, I still do recruit. We all recruit, even though I don't actually hold the title.
Yes.
I really don't look at it as sales, even though, you know, traditionally it's like a sales role. If you're really passionate about what you do and your product and what you have to offer, I don't feel like I'm selling anyone.
Yeah, me too. I agree. And that is interesting. We have that in our background. I feel like with recruiting, more than anything, it's sort of reading between the lines. I've been having this conversation a lot about reading between the lines of, you know, what is important to the person that you're recruiting, what's important to you, because sometimes things don't look the way that they really are on paper. And when you're good at recruiting, I think there's so much psychology and trying to understand people at a different level. So I can see how that has served you really well in your career. And I was also really curious to know what you think are the most important skills and knowledge that you've carried with you from, you know, starting at 9/11 and then having gone through, you know, the years in 2008, and then how that has really served you in this current situation. I'd love to hear more how that's been evolved or translatable into what your current situation is, because I would imagine that it's allowed you to really provide leadership in a way that maybe others who haven't had that experience.
Great question. I work hard. I'm accused of working too long, too many hours. But you know, there, some might argue this, but I think there's some sacrifice. And you know, so having that tenacity, doing things that terrify you.
Oh my goodness, I relate to that.
You relate to that, you know, like you're doing right now, you know.
Yes.
You know, it that's really helped me, being able to take risks, and I would say, just being relatable, having humility, and just, you know, I run with full transparency with my team. One of the things, I guess if you were to ask me, like, what's been a challenge of mine, especially as a woman in leadership, especially in the last 2 years when I stepped into the role of CEO, I would say the biggest challenge would be just proving myself. You know, those that have worked with me for years, you know, celebrate my successes as I rise through the ranks, and those that know me. But those that don't know me, and, you know, whether they're at our organization or outside, you know, I feel like I have to work a little harder at just proving what my capabilities are. So just working hard at proving myself. This 2020 has put us all in that position, man or woman.
Absolutely.
Of proving ourselves and improving ourselves. And so just that's been the biggest challenge, and that's the thing that I think so far I've succeeded at. So
sounds like
you know, just in the last 6 months alone, my predecessor, that would be John Colopy, he's come to me probably 3 or 4 times, and he said, I don't know how you're doing this. I don't know what I would have done. And, you know, and then not just with COVID, but, you know, Minneapolis, we were the epicenter of all the civil unrest, you know, in June. We were boarding up 4 of our offices in June, and we were, you know, we had all sorts of things. We were all, you know, wanting COVID to come back because that was easier with some of the stuff we were dealing with in during all of that in the Twin Cities. It was really, really, and that is a joke, obviously, the COVID, you know, but it's the past 6 months have hopefully I've proven that not only myself, but the team that I've selected to run the company alongside me are very capable of doing what we do. So
that's awesome.
That's incredible.
That's awesome. That's a great segue for one of the topics we wanted to talk about today, which was, you know, we're hoping with this series this month and ongoing to elevate the profiles of women and also people that are of disadvantaged communities in real estate, because, you know, we're T360, we keep score. We're tracking who's in what leadership positions, and, you know, how many CEOs do we have in the industry that are women, and sometimes we get beat up for that, but it's like, hey, it's the scoreboard. We're not, you know, we don't like it, but that's what it is, you know. So that's part of what we're trying to do. And I'm sorry, but I've got a random phone thing going on over here that I need to figure out how to make it stop. All right, there we go.
There you go.
So I think, you know, you install a new app and you think you've got everything shut down, and then it surprises you. So there you go. So, you know, we're keeping score. We're watching, and we know there's not enough women in leadership in this industry. We know there's not enough minority representation. It was obvious to us putting the list together that's true. Is obvious 5 years ago. So we're trying to have more of a conversation. So one of the things we want to talk to you about is what are the, you know, both the challenges and the opportunities for women in leadership, and, you know, what could we as an industry be doing better? You know, what could T360 be doing better? What do we all need to do better? You know, we wanted to just explore that. And you got into one of your challenges, which was, you know, having to prove yourself maybe more than a man has to. But let's talk about the whole picture. So what's your perspective on that?
It's funny, I was looking at similar, I'm kind of a data junkie, and I was looking at some stats the other day. We are mid-year, year-to-date through June, reports came out for our top agents at our company, and I was just scanning the list. We have top teams, top individuals, and I was looking at the top teams. And of the 50 top teams, 10 of them were run by women. So then I got to thinking, okay, that's interesting. I don't know if there's, so then I went and I looked at all of the teams. We have a lot of teams, about 125 teams. And I ruled out like the small, husband and wife teams.
Yeah.
I really looked at the true teams.
The bigger teams.
And of those 125 teams at our company, less than 23% have women team leaders, which is similar to a percentage.
It's almost the same percentage. I think we're right at about 22.5 or 23% of the SP 200 leaders list is
I find that interesting. And but the majority of residential realtors are, realtors are
women.
Or women.
Yep, 7% are women. So as far as what can the industry do, I think there are plenty of opportunities for women. It's not necessarily, and this is just my opinion of creating opportunities, but it would be more of encouraging women to take those opportunities.
Yes.
I think there's the opportunities. I really think there are.
Yeah, the opportunities are there to be had, but it's more about like advocating or saying like, hey, we really think you should, or take the step. Right.
It's encouraging. And if there's any, I'm sure there's broker owners, companies that are listening to this that are probably shaking their heads going, yep, they agree. Like why do some women just choose not to pursue a certain role when they're likely capable? So I think just encouraging, that's the biggest thing. I really was kind of taking a step back when I was looking at just our teams, and excuse me, and I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, women generally just have different, we're moms too, so that's a whole different dynamic. I don't, that's a whole different conversation, but that maybe it's just that women just choose not to because they prefer, I'd hate to speak in general because they're not all women are moms and they want these opportunities. I just, I think just the biggest thing is just encouragement.
Well, Brenda, I was curious what you would think about this. So I had this conversation with someone recently. I was on a panel, and one of the conversations that we were talking about was how that women, we might see a role that's posted or someone mentions it and it's a higher level leadership role. And so we just kind of, we tick mark all the boxes of the things that we don't have versus looking at the skills that we have that might be transferable to that role. And so then what I've noticed more with women is that we don't go then apply for it versus maybe a man would look at it and they're the exact opposite and they're like, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and apply and do it versus us that are being like, oh, I don't fit all the boxes.
Yeah, I can't do that. That's not in my skill set. I was just having a very similar conversation with a colleague.
Were you?
So, yes. Yeah.
I was so curious what if you thought that, because the other thing that I thought was fascinating, I'd love your point of view on, is I get a lot of referrals from people and, I'll say I have somebody looking for a certain, C-level kind of person. And what's interesting is I'll go through and talk to all of, my female references and people like that. And what's interesting is they refer me a man, they don't refer me another woman. And so I just am curious about the dynamics of that. I'm not saying they're good, bad, right, or wrong, but it's just interesting to observe. And so I'm curious what you think.
I don't know. I agree with you on that. So the conversation I just mentioned I was having with a colleague. I have two women that are on my team that recently had babies within the last 6 months or so, and they had their babies a couple months apart. And as they were preparing to go on maternity leave, both of them were asked, probably by multiple people, but both were approached with, and I remember being approached with the same question when I had my firstborn 16 years ago. Are you going to come back to work? You know, are you gonna, is this it? Are you done working? Because there's that assumption, you
That
know?
you'll, yeah,
And of course, both of these gals fortunately laughed at that, you know, and
Yeah. Yes.
but there's that, you know, I don't know, there's that assumption that,
Or a stereotype that maybe
yeah,
you're not going to
yeah.
want to now or something, versus is there a stereotype around that they're critical if you come back to work, like you shouldn't want to work anymore, or what do you,
No, I
no?
don't, yeah, I don't think so. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I don't, I just think that, um, if someone says, no, I'm coming back to work, I'm going to be a working mom, then most people are like, oh, okay.
Oh, great.
You know? And if they say I'm going to stay home, then they're like, oh, okay, that's just as acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, both answers are good. They're both, you know.
But there's that presumed assumption that there's a possibility that they might not come, you know, back to work. So, I think I just think, like I said, these are younger women, but I was faced with this, you know, I think it's changing, and it's slowly changing. It's just going to take time. So, but I really agree with you, Kelly, on the whole thought process of why it, you know, when women are checking those boxes of their skill sets.
Right.
You know,
Get a little more aggressive and going.
I get over that.
So I want to go back to something in your history, Brenda, that I think is probably worth talking about a little bit, which is, you know, I was going to ask about, were you encouraged by John and Bill? Because you probably were, I'm guessing. So I wanted to hear a little bit about kind of that relationship. And then you said something earlier too that I was going to comment about also, which was like that it was a 6-month interview process. so there's something there about that, both the fact that they spent so much time really looking and to see if you're the right person, but also then it sounds to me like there was some mentorship and some development. And so I just wanted to hear a little bit about that, and what can we learn something from that, and from what your experience was there.
So starting with the 6-month interview process, that resulted when we realized that I applied for a position that I was overqualified for, not knowing. We just hit it off. We had great interviews. I wasn't in any hurry to leave. I enjoyed my time at Charles Cud Company. I was just looking for more. You know, yeah. I was in my 20s. I was just looking for that next step. And so that's why that process carried on. Yeah. And we met a couple of times, and then they came to me with this role that they developed. So that's why that happened. It's just the initial role that I met with them about wasn't a good fit. But about, you know, I had them telling me that I was going to be running the company a long time ago. And I would be like, you know, and at first I thought, oh, you say that to everyone. And I would just laugh. And then, you know, as time went on, it really started to sink in about maybe 5 years.
They meant that. They meant that the whole time, probably.
Sure. 5 years, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. They're like, no, you're going to be running the show someday. This is it. You're going to be doing it. And guess what my reaction was? What? Hell no.
Hell no. Yeah, why would I want to do that?
I was like, what? You know, and so no, you know, I wasn't checking that box, you know. So I just was like, what? You know, so no, you're right, Jack. You really, like, you hit the nail on the head. I had that encouragement that not a lot of women have. And I had it repeatedly. And I had those mentors. That it's important to have the mentors also, you know. So eventually I accepted it, and I own it. Yeah.
That's such a good story. I love it.
What do you think that, you know, as a leader you brought? I think every leader that kind of runs an organization brings something into an organization that's very personal, because, we do, Kelly and I do a lot of work with leaders, and, when you work with them, you see, and especially during transitions, you'll see like, oh, well, they were really great, at these kinds of things, but what I'm going to bring to the organization is this. I'm going to bring something. So I'm always interested in like, what's the leadership gift, or what's the thing that you think has been the thing you bring to your organization, and how would you describe it? Because I think people bring something. They bring a new vision, they bring a new direction, they bring a way of doing business. So I'm curious what yours is.
That's a good question. I already have, I have very good relationships with our customers, our sales executives. I think I'm a much better communicator than my predecessor. And that's just like poking fun at him. And so I guess I bring that next level of what the future holds for RE/MAX results. When some people may have, when you have someone that's been in the role for the long time, and they might be considering, moving on to a different role or stepping aside, or, that I bring that certainty.
Right.
Back to the technology piece, I think just my tech background too. So I strong tech and marketing, both those departments I work closely with at RE/MAX Results. So so a kind of a different element to that approach where we've had in the past. I think our sales executives are seeing some of those changes and liking it. I've also built a strong team in the last 2 years. I have a new COO, a new CFO, general manager, and 2 of those 3 are also women, not because I was looking to select women. They were just the best candidates.
They were the best for the job.
So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, Jack.
No, that did. So I'm a clear, like, you feel you're a better communicator, or maybe communicating the message of the moment, and bringing technology, bringing your background, bringing a team that you've been building for years. Those are great, and a direction, and saying we're going to go in a direction. So yeah, I think that's.
But the other thing that I'm really honed in on is staying true to the legacy of our company, of those that founded and built. I have all sorts of things in my personal playbook that are really keeping the core RE/MAX Results legacy alive, in who we are, and like the customer, the associates are the customer, things like that. I won't get into all the details, but our associates understand what that means and what I'm doing. And
awesome.
And yeah.
What do you think, just, and this is, again, part of this conversation about encouraging women leadership, when you did go do that audit of your teams, and you said it looks like, there aren't as many women leading these teams, and we kind of look around, like, what are some, encouragement is great. Is there anything that you've decided concretely where it's like, oh, we need to do a program, or have you seen other people do programs? You're like, that's a good idea. That's part of what we're doing, is like, are there like things, programs, things that are working? Are there, patterns we can watch from other industries and say, what can we do in our industry to make that happen more effectively?
I haven't done anything yet at our company as far as taking that data and deciding to do something with it. I was just curious, really.
Yeah.
After
the observation.
Yeah, it was just an observation. I thought, that's interesting. So, it quite honestly, it doesn't matter to me, like, how many female or male team leaders we have. I just want more.
Yeah. We'll take all the good ones you can get. All the good ones you can get.
So, but I'm, yeah, I still just keep coming back to maybe there's something that we do at Remax Results where it's an event. We haven't unfortunately had these events this year. They probably won't return until next year.
Right.
But they're called Key Talks events. Key acronym is Knowledge Empowers You. So we have these Key Talks, and we bring in speakers from all over, and we specifically we cover topics that are not real estate related. You know, we all, you know, there's all kinds of real estate coaching and training, but they're all personal development type. And so we already have plans of bringing in speakers to talk about more cultural awareness and diversity, and you know, that sort of stuff is super important to us. But you know, I've obviously thought about bringing in something that's more of a empowering, encouraging women. I want it to be a topic that would be helpful to men and women. You know, I don't want to just offer it to, so something like that I would consider. You know, there are a lot of Facebook groups, and there are a lot of events, and there's all sorts of stuff out there that are like women empowerment, and you know, and I think that's great. But I'd be curious to know what I'd love to see. Hey, you guys, T360,
Right.
do you know, a panel of leaders, executives at big companies, not just brokerages, but tech firms, you name it, and real estate, and get their thoughts on what more could be done, what we could be doing. So
Yeah. No, well, we're going to be collecting some of those ideas throughout this series, and we have some other conversations. We did announce earlier this week we brought on a woman to run our diversity and inclusion initiatives. So we now have a person who can help us think about you know, these things that can be assigned. Like, we've got a person to assign to help us with that. And I think that Kelly and I are really excited about, you know, kind of identifying what are the things we can do. I can tell you, we run a program called T3 Fellows, which Kelly is aware of and has participated in some, where we work with broker owners who are and team leaders as well for sales teams who are developing. And we have more than half of the participants in that program are women. And what I can tell you there is, like, I love that program because usually what we're doing is we're just encouraging people. We're encouraging, it's where, like, that's, you take somebody who's raised their hand and said, I want to grow. And then I found, like, we give them knowledge and tools and consulting and all that kind of stuff. But I think the big thing is we give them encouragement, and then we do things like share with them, like, hey, we want to get you into the Mega 1000. We want your brokerage. And we've had, I think 3 companies now break into the Mega 1000 after that program.
That's so good.
Get ranked as, you know, top 1,000 brokerages. And that's that encouragement piece you were talking about. And, you know, that's I've been a consultant for 15 years now. My favorite client is a person that has the talent and wants to do something, and you just say, go get it. Right. And they go, I can go get it. It's like, yeah, you can go get it. Go get it. So
Absolutely.
True.
But yeah, that's one of the, I think that encouragement piece is a big part of that program. And, you know, I'd like to obviously have more people go through that, or any program that does that, candidly. So it's we had a couple of comments come in on the chat just while we're talking. I thought we'd do those real quick. And then we've got a couple of other things for us. So we had one comment come in that says the Good Old Boys Club is still alive and strong in many markets, and that many women don't want to waste time on, you know, crazy politics. They just want to make money and sell real estate and get on. So what do you think? What's your perspective on that comment? I mean, I believe there's some real truth to that.
I do too. Of course, I know that exists. What can be done about it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you have to ask yourself, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I don't think anybody.
Or would you rather just, you know, keep making money? That's fine, you know. But I guess it's a personal decision. I don't. I know that exists, but I'm feeling a shift. I'm feeling a difference. I'm feeling just in attending conferences, like some of the higher level conferences like T3 or some of your competitors. You know, years ago, I admittedly, I'd walk into a room with, you know, 300-400 executives, and I would look around and go, well, you know, it's
Mostly men. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and that's changed, especially in just like the last 3-4 years. That's changing. It is. I've seen a lot of women, even a lot of younger women, and I think that's great. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on, you know, so the comment was on a smaller market, good old boys club, like,
Yeah.
the question, what was the question? Like, how do they?
Oh, it's just like, does it
Yeah.
exist? I do think it exists, and I think it ends up being really short-sighted, you know, and I don't know, Kelly, what you think, because I think if you're a leader and you're looking for a person who's great for a job, you don't care where they're coming from. And
Yeah.
if you're cut off,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm gonna take half the market and ignore it because I prefer men. You're missing the 50% of the talent that's available to run your organization or do something great. So it seems really
Yeah.
So I don't know, Kelly, what do you think about that?
Well, I just say from, you know, my personal point of view is I want to put myself in that situation in order to make a difference, right? And so there, you know, there's ways for me. I was like, I want to be in a male dominated environment so that I can step into that in a way that can serve me and serve other people. But it takes, I think, courage. I think it does. It goes like the encouragement word is such a big topic in this conversation. But I also think some of the movements in our industry, like the Woman Up movement, like that has really taken hold. And, you know, what's great about that is it's really about empowering each other to, you know, move differently in the industry and put ourselves into different situations and help each other across, you know, the country. And I felt like those movements are helpful. And then I just think that the courage and the willingness to step into it when, you know, when you're asked to, or when you notice something that you don't not do it just because it's going to maybe be male dominated or it's going to be political, because I think as women and as people, we have the ability to manage that situation ourselves, and that we can bring light into it and make it different. And I think that's how change can happen. So that would be my point of view.
It's really well stated. It's really well stated.
I agree.
The other comment we had that I'm just curious for us to talk through is one of our attendees said that women often think their choices are this or that, and that it can be a limiting belief where it's like, oh, well, I have to do, you know, I can't be both. I have to choose one or the other. And what do you think about that? Is that a limiting belief? Is that the homemaker versus working person piece you reference?
It might be for some. It never was for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
you know.
And Brenda, I'd love to know on that note even is, how do you balance all of it and be a mother? And especially now with distance learning and this whole situation, like, you know, it's so admirable. How are you handling it? And what are you doing maybe differently than before, or how's it showing up for you?
This year has been especially challenging, the whole distance learning topic. You know, I think in the spring, those of us parents just kind of figured it all out for the first couple of months, and then just threw in the towel at the last month and said, oh, we'll start all over in the fall. But now here comes the fall, and most of us, I think, are, you know, at least where I am, we're starting out distance learning. And so I have had to be very flexible. I shouldn't say had to, it's the right thing to do to support all of our parents and be very accommodating in their work schedules with their school-aged children. So, but how do I do it all? You know, there's some sacrifices. You know, I think just being a parent is, you have guilt just being a parent. I have guilt over all sorts of things.
Being a human.
You know what I mean? You know, but now, like, you know, when have those long days or those long work weeks, sometimes it does wear on your kids. And they, I have teenagers. Well, I have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old, but they do not hesitate to call me out on when my work gets in the way of our family life, and so it's important to take those times to shut down, to go on those trips, to reconnect with your family, to have I think actually COVID actually helped bring our family time back together, so I'm cooking more than I ever have, and we're having the meals at home and the family game nights. I think everybody would agree with that. So that's really helped, but it's I'd be lying if I said that I didn't have personal sacrifices in what I do, but I love what I do. I love what I do almost as much as I love my kids. No.
Awesome.
Well, it shows you have a passion. You have such a passion for the business and for helping your customers, as you call them, be successful. So that's really terrific. So I wanted to wrap up the call with kind of a fun conversation about who are some other women leaders that you admire. I've got some people both in and outside the industry that I admire, but I'm curious to hear, are there other women leaders you've noticed or observed, or people that you pay attention to or that you follow? And just curious.
One of my mentors in my early years at Remax Results, Lynn Folk. Lynn Folk was CEO at Remax Results for a number of years. Mm-hmm. And she's the first person that comes to mind. Margaret Kelly, former CEO of Remax Results, is an amazing woman. And even some new leadership. I don't think Amy Somerville gets enough attention at Remax, and I think she's amazing. So I admire her. There's some gals at Zillow. Sarah Bonnert is amazing, and I know I'm gonna mix up her title. She's like their data economist, Skylar Olson at Zillow. Every time I've seen her speak, I'm just like, wowed. Like, go girl. Like, so there, I could go on and on. I'd say I'm in just awe and admiration of all working moms too, so it's what we do is amazing.
That is so
Kelly, do you have any women that you follow or admire? I know you do. I'm just curious if you want to share any of them.
Yeah, well, I had the good fortune, you did too, Jack, of working with Mo Anderson, the former CEO.
She was the top of my list too.
And then I also, I blessed to also work with Sherry Chris, CEO of Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, unbelievable mentor, just leader, smart businesswoman. So I feel like those two people. I follow Brooke Castillo a lot, so she's my kind of current person that I'm learning under. But I've had the opportunity to work with some incredible women in this industry all the way across. So,
yeah, there's a few. Like Mo Anderson was the top of my list. I really have kind of a crush on Helen Hannah Casey. I think she's brilliant. I think she's really, really smart and says what she means, and she's lovely. We've had her on the show before. And there's a couple of some younger women that are doing some awesome work. Emily Schenenberg here in Austin. I've gotten to watch her whole career, starting out as she was at the state working through the state association, and kind of came in, and she's just a hard worker and smart and calls it like it is. And she's a mom, and she's got all this. She's a lot going on. So I really have enjoyed kind of following her career. And then I've also enjoyed working with Danae Evans over at CMLS and watching her work in the MLS space. And, to see, and she was out from outside the industry. So to come in and kind of figure out how to navigate what can be treacherous waters. I mean, MLSs and associations, it can be a little political. So, those are some of the ones that.
Those are good.
Thank you for asking that question. I just think, just naming these people, and I'm sure all three of us could go on and on about
Yeah.
the women. But
Yeah, I have more, but I think I was like, yeah, those are good. I do have one person. I'm a little bit of a history geek, and I have one person who I'd like to give some credit to, which is Heidi Lamarr. I'm a World War II history buff, and she is an actress, an Austrian actress, who collaborated with a composer to invent frequency hopping as a technology for guiding Allied torpedoes. So this is like a polymath kind of person. She was an actress and worked in music and did all this stuff to come up with this technology. And the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth we have today is all dependent. Like, it all comes from that work that she did in collaboration with this composer for frequency.
Wow.
So anyway, I know that's a little, I'm come out of the engineering world, so I look for that, but she's somebody that I think doesn't get recognized as like the mother of Wi-Fi.
Yes.
You know? So every time you turn on your device and you just think of Heidi Lamarr. She was amazing. So, Brenda, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. Let's, do you have any closing comments, any words of encouragement or positive thoughts for those that are listening about the industry and what people should be thinking about now, coming out of this, real weird time in our industry?
Well, I think we're still in for a wild ride. Let's be honest. 2020 is not over, so
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not.
hang in there. That's what I tell everyone. Hang in there. Let's get through the end of the year. No, I just be fearless and like check more boxes.
We're good. Kelly, anything from you? Any words of wisdom to wrap us up here?
No, I'm just grateful, Brenda, to have met you, and thank you for sharing your wisdom, and look forward to connecting with you further.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, and I love that we're getting to have this series, to get this time to have this conversation. It's really I think it's valuable to us personally, but I'm glad we have so many people here also to listen in. I think hearing about more role models, more women leaders, it encourages other people to take that jump and to say, yes, I'll be on the panel, or yes, I'll sign up for the big job, and that's important. So that's what I took away from today, is that's a good mission, and we'll stay on it. So Brenda, again, thank you so much for taking valuable time out of your day. We really do appreciate it. And the industry thanks you as well for doing it. So keep on making it happen in Minneapolis.
Thanks.
Bye, Brenda.
Great.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.